Cool. I think we'll start. So, welcome to this evening's session. Um, and I'll get a bit of instructions on how to listen as we go through the session. And I encourage you to not make any notes. This is being recorded, you'll get a copy of the recording. So you don't need to make any notes. I want you better just to relax and enjoy the experience of this session because my words don't really make a difference. It's what they trigger within you is going to make the difference. I once was in a workshop and I spent a lot of time and energy, money to be in this workshop. It's a 3-day workshop, and I was really keen. And I sat in the second row. The first row was a bit exposed and mainly reserved. And I sat in the second row and my pad and pen on my knee, ready to go. And the guy came out to lead the workshop, and the first things he said was, "I want you to put your pads and pens down and just have an experience over the next 3 days." I literally felt naked without my pad on my knee because I was terrified I wouldn't get the value from that time and the value from the money and the time invested in it. I remember all the nuggets of wisdom this guy was going to share. But I knew they were recording it and I was going to copy the recordings. That helped me just kind of trust, okay, I can always listen back to the recording. And I trusted him and thought, okay, I'll go with it. And he went on to say, it's better to have one insight that changes your life, one aha moment that helps you see yourself and life differently, than loads of written notes that don't actually make a difference to your life. You may or may not look back at them. And I think a lot of our problems or struggles in life and on this fertility journey are caused by thoughts, overthinking, worry, anxiety, fear, all that kind of stuff. Emotions are our thoughts that come alive into our nervous system. It's our conscious thinking. And for personal change doesn't happen at the level of conscious thinking. Personal change happens when you have a change of heart about something. And for me, that's a more genuine, organic, permanent change because imagine having a friend or acquaintance you think you know and trust. You find out something new about them, you have a change of heart. Next time you think about that person, you don't have to remember to apply the new thinking. You've had a change of heart. And that's my intent for this session is just to have a relaxed time just to listen and notice what comes up within you. Because when you listen in that way, you're more likely to have an insight. You're more open to getting an insight or hearing something afresh. And maybe it's something you knew, but you hear it deeper, you hear it afresh. And it really lands more deeply. So insights, realizations, I think bring us closer to our true self. It helps us let go of the stories in our head and come back to our true self. I think the core of my work is like a remembering. I help people to remember who they really are, their true self. Because our true self is someone who has innate well-being, knows they're okay whatever happens. We'll come on to that. We'll come on to that. But it's the noise in our head that stops us connecting to it. And the more we can listen with a quieter mind, we more our heart hears something deeper. So I'm not talking to your conscious mind. I'm talking to your heart, your soul, your unconscious mind, whatever language you want to use. So just allow yourself to go with the flow and just listen with listen for a feeling within. Listen for a feeling within as we go through this evening. And later on there will be time for questions, so don't worry about that. And if you want to just get the question out, you can type it in the chat, just get it out. To hold on to it. You can always do that, and I'll come to it when I can. Let's open the chat to make sure I can see those. So, this session is about creating the most optimum mind for this fertility journey. What is the most optimum mindset for success? What I call a fertile mind. And to understand that, I want to take us a step back and look at some of the principles of our human experience. To understand our mindset, it's helpful to understand how our mind works. I love principles, and I studied engineering at university, and it's my mind kind of works. And I was thinking about the psychology of the psychology of the mind that underpins my work. And I realized when I first came across it, what grabbed me about it were these good idea of principles. Someone just dropped into this. It was in a workshop. He kind of mentioned these three principles of psychology, but didn't unpack them. He just kind of mentioned it. My ears pricked up. All principles. I like principles. When I understand the principle of something, I can follow things easier. I guess doing being an engineer, doing maths and physics, it was understanding the principles of something, and I could apply easier once I understood the principles. So I dived into this whole realm of understanding these principles and how they apply to our lives. And there, I want to start this session to explore and unpack some of these principles of our human experience. And they're principles because a principle is something that's consistent and repeatable. That's what makes it a principle. And it just is what it is. It's like there's no exceptions with a principle. And when we begin to explore how our mind works and what creates our experience, we realize there are some principles that when there are no exceptions, it makes life easier to understand what's going on in this moment, why we're feeling how we're feeling. And we'll come on to what that means for our fertility journey. There's some implications of these principles. So let's dive in. Um, the first principle, and there's three of them, three principles, and they're like three legs of a milking stool. They're all at play any one time. And I was going to draw a picture, I'll come back to that later. So let's look at the first principle that I call the principle of thought. I used to think my thinking was useful. In fact, more than useful, I was proud. I thought I was a really good thinker. I could solve problems. I could think things through. I thought it was my wisdom. I didn't think I was inherently wise. Sometimes you meet these people, they seem to be very inherently wise, calm, grounded, and everything they say seems to be just makes sense and be useful and grounded in wisdom. I didn't think I had in kind of innate wisdom. One of my first coaches helped me see that actually we all have innate wisdom. But I just had such a busy mind, I couldn't access mine. And that's because at the time I thought my thinking was my wisdom. It helped me be wise, helped me make good decisions. Without being aware, it was actually my thinking, my busy mind that kept me in a state of fear and anxiety. And ultimately, actually, it was putting anxiety into my system and impacting my fertility dramatically. And my wife had a similar experience. So I had to learn to change my relationship with thought. And the more I understood the nature of a thought, that made it easier. I used to try and manage my state of mind, trying to let go of the unhelpful thoughts, the fearful thoughts, the anxious thoughts, and try and hold on to the useful ones. Because at times I thought the fearful thought ones were true, the anxious thoughts were true, and I went on a journey with them. So it's either going on a journey with them, believing the thoughts, and going on this journey, this movie in my head, really believing it was helpful to really second guess what's going to happen in the future, then I can be prepared. Or I was actually resenting these thoughts, trying to get rid of them because I knew they didn't serve me. And I was looking for the useful thoughts. But I was looking for the useful thoughts in the level of conscious thinking. The useful thoughts, our wisdom, doesn't live in the realm of our conscious thoughts. And it was an eye-opener for me to begin to understand with the idea that none of our conscious thoughts are useful. None of them. You can't think your way to clarity. You can't think your way to peace of mind. And we all get irrational thoughts. We'll get crazy thoughts. If we're honest, I could be in a queue and be in a hurry and think, well, what happens if I push that person out of the way? I'd never do it. My psychiatrist has said, yeah, sometimes he could be at a zebra crossing. I think, well, as I plow those people down in his car, he would never do it. Those thoughts are gone and forgotten about as quickly as they come in. It's only the psychopath that gives it a second thought, a third thought, a fourth thought. And before they know it, it's the most important thing they need to be doing. They've gone and forgotten about like clouds on a breeze. Other thoughts come into our consciousness. We think it matters. We think it means something. We think we need to listen to it. But what if they're all just crazy thoughts? What if they're all just imagination? What if none of our thinking warrants a second thought? None of it. It's all imagination, pure imagination. Every thought we have is imagination. And imagination is a wonderful tool to have. The technology we're using to have this session this evening started in someone's imagination. We're probably only the only animals in the animal kingdom that have imagination, possibly. It's a wonderful tool, but we forget it's imagination. We forget that every thought we have is imagination. If we could see that more often, we could hold our thoughts more lightly. We wouldn't give them a second thought. We just allow them that they can just move on. It's when we have a quieter mind, and our mind really is like a glitter ball, like a snow globe. We sometimes have a busy mind. That's called being human. We get triggered about something, get worried about something, and it just settles on its own if we allow it. That's the nature of thought. It settles all on its own. It's only when we try to manage our state of mind, we're putting more energy into it. It is a bit like a toddler having a tantrum. They've got nothing on it. They allow it. And it's soon forgotten without any intervention. But as adults, we're constantly trying to manage our state of mind. We're actually making it worse. We're putting more energy into it. And it's true, yeah, sometimes we're going to be triggered. Sometimes we're going to have some anxious thoughts. Sometimes we're going to have some fearful thoughts. That's called being human. We're going to have these thoughts. We have imagination. And it's just knowing it's okay. The thoughts. Not take any meaning from it, any attachment to it, because the thoughts themselves are not the problem. As I said, the thoughts will just settle if we don't give them a second thought. It's our thinking about our thinking. It's our relationship with thought that makes the difference. If we think it matters, we're going to start to tie ourselves into knots. The more we can see the true nature of thought, it's pure imagination. 100% of the time, we're living in this imagination. And it's the space between thoughts we connect to our true self. When the glitter settles, we access a deeper sense of self. I'd say that's our wisdom. The still, soft voice in the background that's drowned out by the brass band of thought. That's our wisdom. That's clarity. That's perspective. And we come back to that space without doing anything. And we might wake up or have a morning where we're busy, stressed and anxious, and life feels like hard work. And then maybe later in the day, we feel more ease and flow. And maybe there's nothing consciously we've done to get in that state. You can't even remember the transition. It just happens. Our mind settles. So the first principle of our human experience is the principle of thought. It's looking at the true nature of thought. And a way of looking at it, another way I like looking at this is, rather than the principles, they are principles, is misunderstandings. We have a misunderstanding of the nature of thought. We think it needs our attention. We think we need to manage our state of mind. We think we need to think our way to clarity, to answers. We really don't. Solutions to problems come to us when we're not thinking about it. Clarity comes when we're not actually thinking about a problem. So it's a misunderstanding of the nature of the thoughts. And we have the ability to create thought. It's a wonderful gift. It's a wonderful gift to have this imagination, to create thought. Thoughts of different shapes and sizes. They just pop into our consciousness. We have no control over it, but it just happens. Pink triangles, blue squares. We have no choice over the thoughts we have. You couldn't predict the next 5 thoughts if you wanted to. But that's okay. The less we care about what we're thinking, the more it just settles. And we all have different thoughts. So the way I see it, sometimes like glasses. We put these glasses on of thoughts, and the prescription is probably unique to us. It's based on our childhood experiences, maybe our personality. It's nature and nurture. I think a lot of it is nurture. Childhood experiences and life experiences shape the way we see ourselves and see the world. So we wear these glasses with a unique prescription to us. But it's like when you wear glasses, you forget you're wearing them, you're not consciously aware you're actually wearing them. You know you wear glasses. Someone said, "Do you wear glasses?" You know you wear glasses. But through the day, you forget they're there. And that's the same with thought. We forget we're looking at life through this filter of thought. The more we can see that, the more we can realize where our experience is coming from, which is actually the second principle, or the second misunderstanding, the principle of consciousness, the misunderstanding of where our feelings, our experience in life comes from. That our experience comes from these glasses. Our thinking about a situation, that's what we're feeling. Our perception of the situation, that's what's creating our human experience, not the situation itself. And we forget we're wearing these glasses. We think we're experiencing life. But if it was life we're experiencing, then everyone had the same experience of a circumstance. But it doesn't work that way. You can have an emergency crew going to a traumatic accident, and some get signed off with PTSD for 6 months, some get McDonald's on the way home. One's not better than the other, they just have different thoughts. And if it was our circumstances that created our experience, we'd have the same experience of circumstances, but it doesn't work that way. Sometimes we find things scary, sometimes we find we can cope, sometimes we're, even on this fertility journey, the circumstances don't change, but some days feel better than others. But our circumstances haven't changed. Our state of mind has changed. Our thinking has changed. Thinking comes and goes. Thinking comes and goes. It's always moving forward if we let it. It's always moving forward if we let it. So there's a misunderstanding here of what happens in our nervous system, where it comes from. And the truth is, this is what is a principle 100% of the time. 100% of the time, your experience is coming from thought. You live in the experience of thinking. You can't have a psychological experience without thought. What I mean by that is, if an example, like even pain, you can't experience pain without thought. I'm not saying thought is creating the pain. You might have a broken bone or exposed nerve, but your experience of that pain is thoughts. You can't have the feeling of pain without thinking about it. So why sometimes you can have a pain like a toothache or pulled muscle or something, and sometimes it's real agony. Sometimes you're not aware of it at all because your mind's somewhere else. So we can't have a human experience without thought. We live in our experience of our thinking. And it's like a movie in our head. The thinking is so plausible, it's so realistic, but it's still imagination. It's still imagination. But it's like a movie in our head, and it has the best special effects department in the whole wide world. It has our feelings, our nervous system. Feelings are thoughts that come alive into our nervous system. So it feels real. We think we're feeling life. We're not. We're really not. And again, the more we understand where our feelings come from, our human experience comes from, we don't have to be scared of it. We don't take any meaning from it. That's the most important thing I find it. I used to take meaning from my thinking. I'm feeling scared. That means I need to pay attention. That means something bad's going to happen. That means, I think it means something. It really doesn't. Your feelings know nothing about your life situation. It knows nothing about the future. Because you're feeling everything behind the lens, like a movie. It's like with glasses, that's like a film screen, and our mind's like a projector projecting our perception of life on the back of these glasses, the back of this screen. And that's what we're feeling. That's where experience comes from. Our perception, the movie we create. But it feels real, it looks real. And because the glasses are invisible, it feels like we're feeling life. It really does. And we're going to get tricked by it. We get fooled by it. I go on a journey of my thinking. I get tricked by my thoughts. Very plausible, very realistic. The emotions are there. I'm gone. I've gone on this journey of thoughts. But I can catch myself. Come back to now. And the more I've understood these principles, it's like learning to ride a bike. The more you learn to ride a bike, the better you are, the more grounded the feeling of balance you are, the more stable the bike you are. The more you see these principles, the less you get tricked. Now, in this session, I'm just pointing you in a direction. I'm just pointing in a direction. Because when I work one-to-one, obviously we much do deeper work within this and help you see through the illusions, because the illusions are often created by limiting beliefs. We can let go of those beliefs. So we can take the power out of thoughts that make it easier to see through the illusion. So in this session, I'm just pointing in a direction to look. Because so often I find on this, in life as a whole, but also particularly in this fertility journey, there's all these tools and tips about how to manage your thinking, do your affirmations, do your visualization. I'll come on to those things later. When we understand the principles of our experience, we can see the implications of those. Because it really is a self-correcting system. It really is a self-correcting system. We don't have to manage it. So I'm going to do that. Actually, yeah, even being stressed. So being stressed is not a problem. You've got some stress thoughts, the imagination of stress, something bad happening in a film in your head that feels stressful. That's not actually a problem. It only becomes a problem we think it's a problem. The latest research on stress shows that they took a bunch of people who were diagnosed with stress. I think they measured the cortisol levels in their saliva. Those that thought stress was a problem had the physiological effects of stress in their body. Those that didn't think stress was a problem, just a part of life, didn't have the physiological effects. So again, it's not the feeling it's the problem, it's our relationship with it. It's the fact we're stressed about stress because we think we shouldn't be stressed. You're stressed, you're less likely to get pregnant. It's not actually true. The studies are just split on that. And I think they're split because it's not the stress itself, it's our relationship with stress. It's the stress about being stressed. So it's not that easy to measure. There are plenty of women around the world get pregnant when they feel stressed. So again, it's not the feeling, it's our relationship with it. The less we care how we feel, it doesn't have a grip on us, it just moves through. True freedom is not never feeling anxious or fearful or sad or stressed. True freedom is not caring how you feel. True freedom is not caring how you feel because we're going to feel stuff. We're human. We're going to feel stuff. We can't choose what we feel. The more we see where it's come from, the true nature of thought, the principle of our consciousness, the less we care what we're feeling, we hold it more lightly. We don't blame our circumstances or other people because we think it's coming from outside of us. We feel so disempowered because we can't control the outside world. And we realize it's our thinking and we can't control it. It doesn't matter. I had a habit of fearful thinking. It created fearful feelings. The more I could acknowledge that and own that, okay, I have a habit of like an addiction to worry. Most of my clients are addicted to overthinking. I had addiction to worry. And I could see, own it. This is what I do. It's this thought process in my head creating this, not my circumstances. I could stop looking in the wrong place for the answer. I could realize it's just this habit. And it's an innocent habit from childhood. This is where it's on the one-to-one. We can get into the deeper stuff behind this. The more we see where it's come from, the more we can hold it more lightly with loving compassion. We don't try and resent it, get rid of it. We don't wish it wasn't there. We don't try to change it. The more we struggle with our thinking or our feelings, the more we actually give them power. It's like a younger part of us that just needs to be acknowledged. And we're pushing it away or trying to change it. It just needs to be heard and acknowledged. Okay, I see you. I hear you. Just notice it. It needs to be noticed. You can notice it. I'm feeling anxious right now. Full stop. It takes the power out. Just move through. We can surf it. We can surf it. And that glitter ball settles all on its own. All on its own. So that's the principle of consciousness. That we live in the experience of our thinking. Nothing else. 100% of the time. 100% of the time. And the third principle is the principle of mind. Now, I struggled with this principle for some time because what it means is it's like the source of our well-being. For me, it's like the energy of life being loving and kind. Imagine the energy behind life, whatever words we give it, whatever God is for you, Mother Nature, the divine. If we can imagine the energy of life being unconditional love, if we can imagine we're part of that, we're made of that. If we can imagine when our mind settles, we just feel more peace and ease and flow. I'd say we're dropping into being more connected to that energy. It's part of us. Our soul is formless. Our soul is part of that. It's made of our source of clarity, perspective, wisdom. Our innate well-being that's within us. It's part of us. I think we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. My current coach was saying, no, we're 9 billion human experiences, having one spiritual experience. He said we're all energy, we're all the same energy of life. So mine is about recognizing our innate well-being is within us. We're born with it. It's like looking at a baby or a toddler when their physical needs are met, they're fed and watered. They spend most of the time just being okay, just being present. That's their default setting. That's our default setting. It's within us. It's within us. And it's called mind because our mind is the gateway between the world of form, this physical realm, and this formless energy of life. Our soul is formless. Our mind is the interface between the two. Our imagination is the gateway between our soul and this physical energy of life and the physical form of life. Sometimes we're in flow, looking at life through this filter without the filter, just living what I call inside out. Our soul being aligned to something bigger than us. Thought being aligned to our soul, living inside out. Sometimes we have a busy mind, it blocks that. And we're living in the world of form, thinking everything is creating our experience, not realizing it's the other way, it's inside out. When you look at a beautiful scene in nature, you might feel a sense of appreciation or beauty, but it's actually just neutral. It's neutral. Some people might think it's boring, but you're looking at it from a free place of beauty within you. It only works one way, inside out. It only works one way, inside out. And when we begin to see that we're part of this energy of life, we begin to sense and feel that the energy of life has got our back. And for me, that was an alien concept for many years. Partly because my mum's love felt very conditional. She was very super strict. Suffered from anxiety, depression, became an alcoholic, very unpredictable. And I was a little child, a little boy trying to work out the rules. What do I need to do to make sure she's not angry? So I feel more loved, so I feel happier. The remaining part of our brain thinks our survival is dependent on being an accepted member of the tribe, whether that tribe is the family unit or the friendship circles at school. We try to work out the rules, the things we need to do to be accepted. To get validation we seek from our parents or friends. So when your parents are angry, sometimes part of us doesn't like that. It feels scary. We think that we're being shut away from the tribe. And the remaining part of our brain thinks our survival is under threat. And that's the fight or flight syndrome kicks in. Of course, in today's society, it's not actually true. Your survival is not dependent on that. But that part of our brain doesn't know that yet, hasn't caught up. So when we see there's an energy of life that's got our back, it's unconditional. Sometimes we project our experience of our parents onto life as a whole. But we see that actually the energy of life is nothing like our parents. It's unconditional love. It's got our back. It's kind. It's loving. For me, it's like a feeling of coming home. The feeling of coming home. When we've acquired a mind, that's where we go psychologically. We come home. We come home to our true selves. We come home to our heart, our body, and the energy of life that's got our back. For me, that's home. And it's about, for me, this journey is about remembering who we really are. That's our source of well-being. That's our source of well-being. So let's begin to look at the implications of some of these principles on this fertility journey. I've talked about stress. Another one is when I realize I'm home. It's like a lot of my life, I, I had this kind of realization once. I was navigating life like a maze. I was trying to get to the middle of the maze. The middle of the maze was a feeling of being home, safe, loved, relaxed, peace, joy, freedom. Like a child being in the most perfect home setting where they just can play. They can just be themselves, not a care in the world. That's what I was seeking most of my life. And I was navigating life like this maze, trying to work out with the direction what I needed. Oh, I thought it was a good, keeping my mum happy or keeping my teachers happy or getting the good qualification, getting the career and the pension, getting the wife, the family. It was always trying to work out the next thing I thought I needed to get home. I'm okay if, or I'm okay when. But that's living outside in. And it was on our fertility journey that, we had 10 years of this, and about 8 years in, I hit rock bottom, because the focus was on my wife for so many years. And we found out I had a problem after sorting out her fertility. After many years, we're told there's no reason we can't get pregnant. And we found out I had a problem. It was disastrous. It's like, it was just hit rock bottom. And that prompted me to do my own psychological journey, which is why it's about Project You versus Project Baby, because it unlocked everything, including our fertility. But in that psychological journey, I'd realized I'd been seeking this feeling of home because deep down I didn't feel loved for who I was. I thought I had to earn it. I had to work my way home while realizing I was there already. You're only ever one thought away from that feeling of home. A place that knows you're okay. A place that knows you're okay whatever happens. Doesn't mean you stop wanting to have a baby, but for me, it shifts from being a need to a desire or want. For me, it takes the pressure off the process. You hold it more lightly. And for me, also it creates deeper resilience. That when the feelings come up, you know that's your human experience. That's okay. I never forget when my father died. I'd never known grief like it. The first parent I lost. Having this understanding helped me. And it really surprised me. I wasn't expecting this. I had this dual experience. Yeah, there's a great sense of sadness and grief. But underneath all that, a deeper part of me knew it was okay. A deeper part of me knew that life was going to be different, not worse. And that actually allowed me to feel the grief more freely, to feel the sadness, not be scared of it, not run away from it, not bury it. That was what I used to do with emotions, very much so. It's not helpful, just stuck in your system, creates tension. And, I used to avoid conflict, but it came out as passive aggressive. So having this kind of duality of experience of deeply down knowing I was okay, being awareness of this energy of life that's got my back, this sense of home within me. I could feel this human experience more freely and grieve more healthily, and it's going to move through more easily. I didn't have to struggle with it or be scared of it. So for me, that enables us to navigate this emotional roller coaster with more resilience, to serve these feelings rather than get caught up into these eddies and get stuck and trapped in these psychological experiences, not being able to find our way out. Positive thinking. Another thing I find a lot in this fertility world, just think positive. What if you don't need to be positive? Because you can't choose whether you have positive or negative thoughts. In any aspect of life, we can't choose what we think, how we feel. Sometimes you might be positive, sometimes you might be negative. That's okay. If we stop trying to now manage our state of mind, we find a happier equilibrium. We spend more time in this feeling of being with a sense of neutral possibility. For me, that's a really healthy place to be. Just neutral possibility. You don't have to be super positive. And if you feel negative at times, that's okay. It's called being human. It's exhausting trying to manage your state of mind. Exhausting. Because you're fighting thought with thought. And it generally doesn't work. So affirmations, I don't believe in affirmations. Affirmations are trying to persuade yourself of something you don't truly believe. You're fighting thought with thought. It's like spiritual bypass. So when I work one-to-one, we let go of these limiting beliefs from the core of it rather than trying to fight thought with thought, persuade yourself of something you don't truly believe, because in fact that can make it worse. You say, well, whatever the affirmation is, I believe I'm good enough or worthy of being a parent. And the part that doesn't believe says, yeah, not really. Yeah, not really. And you're actually just reinforcing this counteract. Yeah, not really. You're fighting thought with thought. You're giving it more strength, more power. You don't need affirmations. You don't even need visualization. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of visualization. I've actually got to take a step back. Affirmations, and different about affirmations. When you clear, I say spiritual bypass. When you do the healing, let go of the limiting beliefs. Let go of the yeah, not really. You can step into claiming those things as truths. I am enough. For me, it's a declaration, not an affirmation. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times a day I don't feel enough. But I can remind myself, I'm enough. It's only what everyone thought from coming back home. When we let go of the limiting belief, yes, sometimes we remind us of these things. That's different to trying to persuade us, trying to do the spiritual bypass. I think declarations are very different to affirmations. And I was going to talk about visualization. I'm a big fan of visualization, but you don't need to visualize to get pregnant. You don't need to visualize. I was talking to a therapist recently, saying she's struggling with a client who couldn't visualize. So what do I do? And actually, a lot of therapists saying, try this, try this, try this. And I was saying, what if that's okay? The stress about thinking she should be able to visualize and she can't visualize, that's going to cause more problem than anything else. Thinking you should be able to do something like, I should be positive. Plenty of women get pregnant without visualizing being pregnant. For me, the biggest thing we can do psychologically is to know we're okay whatever happens. To know we're going to be okay whatever happens. For me, that's the feeling of coming home. That's the feeling our body relaxes into. Healing can come into our body, or hormones can relax into a more healthy state. That's for me where the magic happens. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of visualization, but from a place of okayness, not from a place of fear or needing to do it. From a place of I'm okay, whatever happens. And you can gently imagine, if you want, visualizing your body doing what you want it to do. That can be a very playful way. I do believe in the mind-body link. I do believe you can guide your body to do more what you want it to do. But if you're doing that on top of fear, if you're still scared of not getting pregnant, it undermines anything you do to try and improve your fertility, whether it's visualization, acupuncture, whatever it may be. The core thing is to know you're okay whatever happens, to let go of the fear, to come home, to shift it from being a need to a desire. Then there's things you can do to improve your fertility, things that you feel resonate with you. Here's another thing about the implications of this, is that Project Baby often becomes all-consuming. Doing everything we can when I'm scared of having regrets and not doing everything you can, whether it's the acupuncture, the nutrition, the herbs, the supplements. Oh, I don't get me wrong, I did that for 4 months. I threw myself and did everything I could to improve my fertility because male sperm is regenerated every 3 months. So I did it for 4 months just to make sure. Stuff I know can make a difference for fertility and life as a whole, things like acupuncture. Stuff I love acupuncture in my life today. But my results got even worse. They were so bad to start with. They didn't get any worse. They got worse after that 4 months. I can look back and see it's because I was doing those things from fear. I was doing those things from fear, so it's feeding the fear. It was feeding the fear. When I stopped trying, I think, okay, there's nothing I can do about this, and did my own psychological journey, I came to this place of peace without giving up. I began to see for the first time that actually a life without children is not going to be worse. It's just going to be different. I didn't believe that place existed. I came to that feeling of home. We still have heart's desires, preferences, choices. They're not needs, psychological needs. So yeah, visualization can be a powerful tool. We don't need it to get pregnant. And if it's built upon fear, you're fighting fear. You're fighting the fear. I'm going to pause there to see if there are any questions, and feel free to type a question in the chat. I've talked a lot there. So I was going to pause to see if there are any questions from people that are live on the call. So feel free to type a question in the chat. So we talked about the principle of thought. Thought is pure imagination. And it settles all on its own and we stop paying attention to it. Then we access something deeper. Talked about the principle of consciousness, that we live in the experience of our thinking, nothing else. Nothing else. We talked about the principle of mind, the source of our innate well-being. The source of our innate well-being. And that's our mind is the gateway between that feeling of being home and our experience in this physical world. I do believe we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And a lot of psychology just focuses on the physical experience. Traditional psychology is often based upon B.F. Skinner, the grandfather of psychology that studied monkeys and animals. But we're not monkeys, we're not animals. And then we're spiritual. There's some forms of psychology that's super spiritual. We're both. We're both. I think the magic is to see how the interface between the two. And that's what I love about the spiritual psychology that underpins my work is I'm so thankful it helps me understand myself as a human as well as a spiritual being. So there's a question. How do you know if you're scared of not getting pregnant, even if you believe you're okay, whatever happens? How do you know if you're scared of not getting pregnant, even if you believe you're okay, whatever happens? And I think if you truly believe you're okay, whatever happens, then maybe not scared of not getting pregnant. You know, I often ask two questions when I meet someone for the first time. Not anyone in any situation when I meet a prospective client for the first time, not anyone in the street or in the local shop. Someone who's exploring this kind of journey with me, I might ask, yeah, what would having a baby give you? And it's trying to see if there's a psychological goal behind the goal, because often there is. We think we want something, but often there's something deeper behind that. I was once, it sounds very stereotypical, but I was on a men's retreat and we're chopping wood. It sounds very stereotypical, but the chopping wood exercise was a metaphor for the session we just done before, which was looking at the goal behind a goal. Because often when you chop chop big logs of wood with an axe, if you're not experienced at it, and I'm not, you often aim for the top of the log rather than the bottom of the log. I guess it's that kind of follow through, which is similar to things like some sports like tennis. It's about the follow through. And I imagine like boxing is probably similar, the same. And we think we know we want something that's often deeper. So I thought I wanted a baby. I did want a baby, but actually thought it was going to give me something deeper than that. I thought it was going to give me validation. I thought it was going to be a sign of God's blessing that we haven't been just kind of abandoned by God. That's what I felt like in life, that life was harder for me and being abandoned by God and I hadn't earned his love. So it's exploring, okay, is there a goal behind the goal? Yes, you do want a baby, but is there something psychological that you're attaching to that physical desire? Let's explore that. Let's unpack what that may be. And another one is, yeah, how would it feel if it didn't happen? If it never happened, how would that feel? And sometimes there's naturally some sadness there, and let's explore that. How deep is that? But I often ask that question, people get quite emotional because, in fact, one recently, they couldn't even go there. Just can't even think that. And that's a sign, obviously, there's a fear of it not happening because they can even contemplate it. They knew it'd be too scary to even think about it. There's a couple of questions to explore where there is, but generally, if you feel that you'll be okay whatever happens, that's a good sign. In my experience, that's a good sign. It doesn't mean we don't carry other negative thoughts and feelings about life that hold tension in our body. That we might have a limiting belief that may not be show up in our fertility journey, may show up in other areas of life that means we're carrying tension unnecessarily. Sometimes our thinking, our insecure thinking is more sticky in one area of life than other. So we see through the illusion in one area but not another. So for me, Project You is not just about having a baby, it's about life as a whole. When I talk about Project You, it's about you living more inside out in all areas of life. And for me, that gives us freedom to be ourselves, to be who are our best selves in life as a whole, in our relationship, to have a sense of purpose. Because sometimes we're living outside in. I drifted through life. I had a very successful corporate career. I drifted through it because when someone wanted me to go and work for them, it might have been a promotion. Oh, I like to be wanted. And I just did it. I didn't have a conscious plan of where I wanted to be in 5 years' time. Don't get me wrong, having a plan is useful. We've got to hold it lightly. I had no idea. I just drifted. And there's a risk of drifting through life because we don't know what we want, or we don't think it's okay to ask for what we want in life. We don't think we deserve it. There's all sorts of stories we can have that mean we don't have a sense of purpose of what we're about. And I believe we all have a sense of purpose, even beyond being a parent. So I think Project U is living more inside out so we can create more of the container we want to bring our baby into, create more of the relationship we want to bring our baby into, create more of a sense of self and a sense of purpose we want to bring our baby into, because sometimes unconsciously we think having a baby will give us those things. But that's the outside in. That's the I'm okay if, I'm okay when. And that can mean sometimes we have a fear of it not happening. It's either a fear of it not happening or attaching too much pressure onto it because we think it's going to give us more than having a baby. Don't get me wrong, having a baby is a big thing, but it doesn't give us a sense of purpose necessarily. We think it might do, but if we think our baby, our family is our sense of purpose, we live our purpose through them, it puts pressure on them, and it just creates emptiness syndrome when you're less needed as a parent. And my wish is for my son to know that he can live a purposeful life. And one of the ways I think I can do that is for me to live a purposeful life, being an example of that. So it's a very long, sort of winded answer, sorry, to that great question, but I hope it's kind of useful and points, yeah, something useful there that helps you. It's going to pause to see any other questions. Otherwise, I think we'll leave it there. I know I've got a few minutes, but it feels like just to leave that there because I realise I've thrown a lot at you. I've talked a lot, just purposeful, because I know when we're thinkers, I talk a lot and throw a lot at you because I don't want you to consciously think about it. I'm trying to see what it triggers within you. See what it triggers within you. So, thank you for joining me on this session this evening. Don't think about it consciously. You're going to think about it. That's natural. Don't consciously think about trying to remember stuff, write things down. Just let it filter through you. You might be surprised what reflections or insights come naturally. For me, that's where the change happens more organically. So at the beginning, my wish is that you point you in a direction and maybe begin to challenge some of the typical stories and things you see on this journey about affirmations and positive thinking and all that kind of stuff, and maybe free you to have a different perspective on those. And I think for me, this journey is helping people be free to be more themselves and realize we don't need all this management of our thought. We can't manage our thinking. It's exhausting, it's tiring. There is a very different way. It's about coming back and remembering the truth of who you are. And for me, that's creating the container we're going to bring our baby into. It's a place to come from. It's within us now. So go easy, relax, let things filter through, and enjoy what reflections you have. Loving you.